You can't really talk about Mortal Shell without talking about its obvious inspirations. From Software's Soulsborne games, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Developer Cold Symmetry has created a love letter to From's games with its own Souls-like, and Mortal Shell borrows liberally from the Souls control scheme, its combat formula, and its minimalist approach to storytelling.
You seem different, untouched by false truths.
Mortal Shell is more than a retread, however. It adds ideas of its own that shift the way you think about its combat, introducing a more deliberate and strategic pace. It sends you down dark forest pathways into strange, twisted temples guarded by challenging bosses, and it provides a bunch of wispy, spooky lore for you to piece together as you scour its world for everything you can discover. Mortal Shell is a sort of small-scale Souls-like game, demanding less of an investment of time and frustration. It feels tuned for people who've been interested in the Souls experience, but who maybe struggled with its difficulty, while still striking all the same essential nerves. You play a faceless, voiceless being dubbed the Foundling, more akin to a spirit or a revenant than a person, who ventures into a decaying, poisonous world known as Fulgrim. There, most people you come across want to murder you, and in your undead-ish form, you're not much of a match for them. One hit will destroy you. To survive, you'll need a better body, which is where the name Mortal Shell comes from. You're able to inhabit the corpses, or shells, of some tough warriors you find along the way, which make you a little less prone to death. The 4 shells in the game each play a little differently from one another, providing a set of characters you can swap between as you play. Each shell also has unique special perks you can unlock in a typically Souls-like way, by spending currencies you earn from killing enemies. Currencies you permanently lose if you die and don't retrieve them from your own corpse. Combat in Mortal Shell owes its basics to Dark Souls and Bloodborne. You have a fast light attack and a slower, stronger heavy attack, as well as a backstep that you can convert into a roll to dodge your enemies. How much you can swing your sword and how many times you can dodge are dictated by a stamina gauge, and there's a tightly timed parry move that opens enemies up to a brutal riposte attack, which also heals you. The thing that sets Mortal Shell apart from its inspirations is the Harden ability, which lets you briefly turn to stone and tank a hit before the stone breaks. Harden has a short cooldown, so you have to use it strategically against an enemy's attacks. You can also start an attack and harden midway through, ignoring your opponent's strikes so you can land your own. The Harden ability provides a new set of essential strategies to Mortal Shell's combat. Hardening lets you turn yourself into a Trojan horse, baiting your enemies to attack you so you can get in under their guard. Especially with tougher bosses, the key to victory is almost always to harden yourself so you can score a hit and keep your combos going when you'd otherwise get eviscerated. Harden, along with a very forgiving dodge, also subtly lessens Mortal Shell's difficulty, and that seems to be the alchemy Cold Symmetry is going for. Mortal Shell feels like a Dark Souls game, pushing you to build skills, study enemies, and carefully dole out your resources. But it's also one with abilities that give you extra forgiveness, and the game doesn't expect you to spend hours working on defeating a single boss. The big drawback of Mortal Shell's combat system is that it's easy to become too reliant on hardening to slowly chip away at difficult enemies. Instead of finding clever ways to use Harden against bosses and outsmart them, you can fall into that much more boring strategy, turning fights into lengthy slogs where you never feel like you're in any real danger. Mortal Shell's big focus, outside of combat, is on exploration. You spend most of your time wandering through Fulgrim and its 3 huge temples, which stand as Zelda-like dungeons. Each temple is markedly different from the others, and provides some gorgeous, inventive settings to fight through, including a deep, icy cave, a flaming crypt, and a twisted, floating obsidian tower. The locations feel specific to the challenges within, and exploring them is a treat as you're rewarded with lore and weapon upgrades for checking every corner. Exploring Fulgrim also brings up Mortal Shell's familiarity system. When you first find an item in the game, you're not told what it does, but using it builds familiarity, which can change or upgrade the item's effects. Eat a poison mushroom the first time, and you might feel dumb for making your character sick, until you max out your familiarity and gain poison protection from the mushroom instead. The system rewards you for learning about the world while giving you a good reason not to hoard all your items. You'll also delve into the 4 shells you find by unlocking their memories as you upgrade them. The memories provide more tidbits of story and lore for you to pore over and try to make sense of, giving each shell a bit of personality. In typical Souls fashion, however, you'll still have to piece together all that lore and plot on your own.
How else could he know so much about me? He had condemned himself with each utterance.
It's in some of this exploration that Mortal Shell stumbles most. The swampy Fulgrim area that connects the dungeons all tends to look the same, and it's easy to get lost trying to find your way to the next temple to advance. Landmarks aren't extremely obvious, and it's all pretty maze-like, and I spent a lot of time accidentally going in circles trying to find my way forward. There are also times when enemy placement can feel frustrating or cheap. Mortal Shell really likes to ambush you with combatants you can't see until they show up. So much so that it's easy to get overwhelmed at a few points. That can force you to repeatedly run back through those big, confusing areas, which is a drag. Still, Mortal Shell succeeds more often than not at capturing the specific feelings intrinsic to Souls-like games. The twists it adds to From-inspired mechanics do well to make it more approachable than most, while maintaining that same air of mystery and foreboding that makes the genre so intriguing. Mortal Shell especially makes for a great introduction to Souls-likes if you're new to them, demonstrating what so many players have found so interesting about this kind of game. But Mortal Shell is also a lovingly crafted, weird, and deceptively deep game in its own right, that rewards you for wandering its dark pathways and challenging its deadliest foes.